Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Jeremiah DeGullen, Solutions Advisor for the Center for Professional and Executive Development, affectionately known as CPED. And I'm excited to have you with us today and hear from Katrina Cravey with Charisma Q about how to improve your confidence, communication skills, and charisma, and why it matters in the workplace. Before I introduce Katrina, I'd like to share a few words about the Wisconsin School of Business Center for Professional and Executive Development. CPED offers professional development programs and certificates that will give you the modern, relevant skills needed to advance in your career. All of our programs offer interactive learning sessions facilitated by instructors with practical business experience. CPED also partners with organizations to provide customized professional development programs, coaching, and consulting. For more information on the Center for Professional and Executive Development, please visit our website at www.uwcped.org. If you have any questions during today's session that you'd like to ask, you can submit those questions using either the chat or the Q&A buttons at the bottom of your Zoom webinar screen. We'll pose questions that are submitted during the Q&A at the end of today's webinar. I also want to mention that today's webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be made available in the coming days. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Katrina Cravey. Katrina is an Emmy Award-winning TV journalist for Fox, ABC, and NBC affiliates from across the country. She is co-founder of Charisma Q, a tech-enabled coaching company purpose-built to evaluate, coach, and create charismatic people, and is a California native and a graduate of USC, which we'll forgive her for because she's married to a UW-Madison alum. So welcome to the group of cool kids. So Katrina,
thank you
so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Jeremiah. I got off the kids table and I'm in the adult table now, right? With the Center for Professional Executive Development. I love it. I love it. Yes, thank you so much for having us here today. And of course, I always like to start off every session on what is this going to mean for you? Because I know that you've given your time to us today to say, okay, what can I get out of this webinar? So we want to make sure that you understand that you have a greater ability to move your message by the end of our time together, and technically your career. We want you to have that higher employee engagement, better boardroom presentations. When you think about executive presence and your public speaking skills, how important those are to every interaction, whether you do winning media interviews, or maybe you're on this call right now going, hey, I want to get the next job. I have a job interview coming up. Here at Charisma Q, we love this. 85% of your financial success is due to your personality, your ability to communicate, negotiate, and lead. I coach some of the top CEOs, and when I say, how do you hire people? They say, yes, definitely. I definitely look at their ability to communicate as a key skill in me choosing them. Now, there might be some of you on this call going, no, wait a minute, Katrina, wait a minute. I have some real technical skill here. And for those of you, I say, yes, your technical skill is important. Shockingly, only 15% of it matters on those first interactions. So we as humans are looking at people and going, okay, do you have a good combination of friendly and competent? But at first, we need to know that you're friendly to get started. I want you to think about your first job, the very first job you had. Maybe it was at McDonald's. For me, it was, I graduated from USC in broadcast journalism, and I have a political science degree. And my first job was Parkersburg, West Virginia. I don't know how many of you knew where Parkersburg, West Virginia is, but I did not. I got my first job at WTAP in West Virginia. And when you think back to your first job and how much money you made, Parkersburg, I was the weekend anchor and weekday reporter, and I made $6 an hour. Now, the crazy thing about this company, instead of paying time and a half for when we went into overtime, they only paid halftime. It's crazy. So when I was anchoring like the Sunday night news at 11 o'clock at night for a half an hour, my $6 an hour, half an hour, $3. Oh, wait, we only pay halftime, $1.50. I always joked around that if anyone ever called and said, you were really awful tonight, I'd be like, yeah, you know what? You got what you paid for. And then I would just hang up. My grandfather back in California, my family missed me. And he said, honey, if you just come back and work at Taco Bell as a manager, you will make more money than you do on TV. But I believe that my ability to communicate was going to take me further in this career. And I was excited about the career. I was really passionate. So I was thankful to go from Parkersburg, West Virginia. And as Jeremiah said, it almost sounds like I can't hold a job. I was on TV stations across the country, but spent most of my time in Milwaukee as the main anchor for the Fox affiliate here in Milwaukee, and then was on a talk show host, and at the same time was an investigative reporter. There was a problem though. Every time I was interviewing somebody and I'd put a microphone in their face, I recognized there was a huge gap, a real skills gap in their ability to tell the story of themselves well and to tell the story of their company well. I'd interview somebody for more than 10 minutes and I was like begging to get that great 10-second soundbite. So if you're thinking about, yeah, people have told me I should put my elevator pitch together, but you've never done it or you don't do it well, that's a problem. So I left television in 2016 and started coaching some of the top CEOs to be better in their media interviews and speaking on international stages. I had one CEO who was interviewed by 60 Minutes and Steve Croft. So you can only imagine how much practice that takes to get ready for that. I'll tell you a little story about him later. I was the CEO storyteller for the fastest growing company in America in 2018, which was in Madison, Swan Leap and Brad Hollister. So what you're getting today in this webinar is Emmy award-winning communication skills that I've built over a lifetime of career. I always say my tagline is live to tell the story. And I love telling good stories. And I want you to be able to tell those stories as well. For those of you who are familiar with McKinsey and Company that look at broad industries and trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to make country better? How are we going to make employees better? They say that employees in almost every role and every industry need to acquire a new set of skills, especially after COVID. This is a new time of remote work, hybrid presentations, all of that. And when they surveyed some of the top leaders, I'll show you the top 10, there were social, emotional, and advanced cognitive skills. So you can see that we put the Charisma QQ right by the places that we play best in, which is that leadership, how to manage others, really depends on your charisma and getting them inspired to do what you want. Adaptability and continuous learning. You're the type of person that says, yes, I want to continually learn and to be better at what I do. And those interpersonal skills, that empathy. Some people call those soft skills. I call them power skills. These are things that we definitely need. And it all comes from you. It really starts with you. So when you think about the culture in your company, what's the power of your words or the mood that you may bring to the company? Have you thought about that? I bet you can think about the people in your company that have a bad mood and you don't like it when they come to work sometimes. Can you deliver a clear and consistent brand story? Charisma Q, we work with companies a lot on their onboarding, maybe 45, 90 days into an onboarding a new employee and saying, can they tell the story of the company well and consistently every time? If I was to ask your staff, the people around you, for one adjective, what would they say about you? Would that one adjective be what you want them to say about you? So thinking about that culture, that leadership, if you're on a leadership team, it's much like that marathon running, right? You've got the goals, you've outlined it, you know the vision, these are the marks that we need to hit and we're going to go there. But you start running and you forget there's all those people in the back that haven't heard that communication yet. And you think, well, they're probably getting tired of it. They don't want to hear from me anymore. Not true. They need to hear from you. It's almost like sales. It's like 7 times. They need to hear it again and again and again to get that message. So have you created a great communication strategy to getting that message to the back of the pack? Smart leaders, and all of us really want to be smart leaders, they can continually communicate. They do it often and they're not worried. They don't let the naysayer, the inner critic go, oh, nobody wants to hear from you again. They know they've got to do it. They're authentic. So often, and maybe depending on where you are in your career today, especially new, I see it a lot with our newer members, that they want to be so professional. They forget to be personable. You have to be personable for people to go, yes, I want to interact with you. And you have to pump it up. You've got to, especially on virtual calls like this, which so many of us do. There are studies done, especially for women, that we don't give enough energy and enthusiasm on these calls. And video has a way of shrinking you down. So on television, we were taught to be a little bit more animated in our micro expressions to get people to go, okay, they're actually speaking to me. Because if we just did it monotone and I took it all down, this webinar wouldn't be any fun. So thinking about that, I want you to think about, when you think about charisma, that word means a lot to some people. Who do you think about? Maybe it's a leader. Maybe it's someone on television you've seen. Maybe it's your good old Uncle Eddie, who is just really great, charismatic, or your aunt, right? For us, we're laser focused on charisma because it's that ability to attract, engage, motivate, and really influence the people around you. Now, I have friends that will say, Katrina, you can't teach charisma. You actually think that you have technology right now that can teach people how to be more charismatic? And I say, yes, it's rooted in science. I can overwhelm you with the science that we have behind it and what we're doing. It can be taught for those who want to develop and grow. It's like anything else. You know that you come into a situation and if you're like, I don't really want it, you're not going to do it. It takes practice to master. Charisma is like a golf game because every approach is different. You may be meeting with one person. You may be meeting with a board of directors. You've got 10 people sitting in a conference room. You may be talking to 5,000 people. Every approach is different in how you build it. We like to talk about the art, the science, and the teachability of charisma because some people will be like, well, what's charisma? I mean, what is it? Really? I mean, it's a nice word and it feels like, okay, you're given a gift, a divine gift from God is one of the definitions. But what is it truly? We've had an industrial psychologist bless the components of charisma, and I want to share those with you. Because the art and the science, on the top row there is the art, authenticity. It has to be true to who you are. You can't be, the Oprah and you get a car and you get a car. Not everyone's like that. There's different types of charisma and it has to be truly authentic to who you are. We all can spot a phony. So we have to work on making sure that your personal brand is online with how you really truly are. Empathy, it's my favorite. My favorite is that we're always thinking about the other person in our communication. How do we craft the message to connect with them, for them to really hear us? And it starts with us really hearing them. Confidence. Do you have the confidence in the moments that matter? Or are there certain situations that you're like, I have more fear in this. I don't know what it is. When the record button goes on a camera, that's when I get freaked out. I can do a virtual call, no problem, but I don't like it being recorded. All of us have our own fears that we have to get over to have that ultimate confidence. Then the science, the bottom line there, first impressions. How do we show up? Even the first impression of your email, when we talk about communication channels, how many of us have received an email where it's all copy, no paragraph breaks, and we go, I cannot look at this right now. I'm going to look at it later. Do you ever really go back and look at it later? So those first impressions, we want people to look at us. We want people to see our communication and to interact with us. Storytelling. Are you a good storyteller? Do you know the message of your company or the story of your company well enough to say it? And then vocal delivery. Your vocal delivery matters so much into people buying into you. How many are you using? Maybe you have some up talk where at the end of every question or every sentence, it sounds like a question and you don't really know why you talk like that. But all of your friends are talking like that, so you think that's the way to talk, and it's eroding people's confidence in you. So just going over those few components right now of talking about charisma, I want you to think about how important is charisma to your interactions and your relationships. Write that number down. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being, yeah, I think it's really important. What is it for you? And then how would you rate yourself today? Have you thought about this concept? How do you think you stack up on all those different components? When it comes to first impressions, we as humans are very good at reading people. You walk down the hallways, or, you're at the mall and you can see people and you start to tell the story of them just from the way that they look. There was research done where students looked at video clips, 2, 5, and 10-second soundless video clips, where they were just looking at the professor and deciding whether they were likable and trustworthy. Crazy thing is that these researchers also surveyed the students who had actually taken the course, and it pretty highly correlated with how the students truly felt about the professor at the end of the course. So think about that, and the fact that if this was silent today, you'd be making a decision on whether or not you wanted to listen to me, whether or not you thought I was likable or trustworthy. When I was on television, that's what consultants said to us as well. They said, you had 5 seconds. You have 5 seconds for somebody who's making dinner for their family at 5 o'clock is going to decide, oh, I need to turn up this station, or I won't go by you. I won't flip to the next station because you have the right look. So what is your 5-second size up? When I do this class in person, people are told to look at the person next to them and try to build commonality. Maybe you wear funny socks. Maybe you can tell that person's a runner. Maybe they have a class ring on that you can build conversation. But there's a story that you tell about yourself. In first impressions, we have a lot of members who talk about, well, I might need to lose weight, or I want to have a better wardrobe. All those things are within your control, and it's something that, if that's what you want, that's what you need to think about providing for the people that are around you and also for yourself. So on virtual, when we started Charisma Q, it was during the pandemic. And of course, all of us were sent indoors to these virtual calls, which I don't know how many of you are on. I'm on them all day long. We saw some big no-nos, so that we have some 3 tips for you to be better on camera anytime you're on camera, especially on these virtual calls. Number one, put your camera at eye level. How many of you looked up somebody's nose hairs or seen the ceiling fan overhead? No one wants to do that. You want to make this seem as in-person as possible. That laptop camera, you wouldn't have somebody come into your office and be looking down on them. That's not the way they want it. So think about the ways that you can get that to be at eye level. Lighting makes a big difference. Don't be lost in the shadows. Have that natural light coming in front of your face, not any windows behind you, or buy one of those ring lights. That really helps. And then how many of you, I know we had all those funny videos of people where they dress the set behind you is very important. Your company should have some branded logos, things behind it. Burn the company logo into someone's brain of, hey, I really enjoyed that call because I don't know what it was about them, but I remember them more than the competitor. The reason why is that you've got the logo in the background somewhere. A bed in the background, even if it is your spare room, that is a charisma cue. No, we don't want to be invited that much into your home. Some of you have said to me, okay, but I'm turning my camera on because I think it's important to have this interaction, but the person that I'm having the meeting with, they don't have their cameras on. You need to set expectations in your company. I love companies that have the culture of cameras on the whole time. 55% of your communication is built on body language and facial expressions. You have to set expectations. When people would be coming live to a meeting, no one walked in with a bag over their head. They came in completely dressed and ready to go. There's just not a way of getting around it when you're in person. So we say set expectations, make it fun. Tell them, hey, this is going to be a video meeting. Set the expectations early. You can't tell them a half an hour before because they may not have showered and you want them to come to the meeting. So set those expectations early. If you're thinking, yeah, I do want a new wardrobe, what should it be? Jewel tones are excellent colors to pop on camera. For guys, if we ever go back to wearing ties, these are some great tie colors. We want you to fit the situation and your own personal brand. Nick Folks is a financial advisor that has been on our station and then also on CNBC recently. He's also one of the Charisma Q coaches. If you take a look at Nick's suit, look at the quality of the fabric, everything about the tie. It screams, I've got money. And he should. He's a financial advisor. We want that from him. Mary Barra is the CEO of General Motors. If you look at videotape of Mary, she wears a lot of these colored leather jackets. It matches the brand of General Motors being a fast car company. So when you start to think about your own personal brand, how do you want to build that? Now, if you want to do it, change your personal brand immediately. Facial expression, super easy. If you look at this picture, who do you gravitate to? I'm assuming it's Mary, and there's two reasons why. One, in every culture, a smile is the only expression that people see as friendly and approachable. Smiling. You think you're doing it, but typically you're not. So with Mary, she's got that great smile, but she also does the second thing, a little bit of a head tilt to the side. It shows in your body language, I'm stopping and I'm really listening to what you have to say. Our dogs do it, right? If any of you have dogs, as soon as you start talking to them, they're like, roll. That's the way that you need to think about. If you're having a really important conversation with somebody, give them the charisma cue body language of, all right, I'm going to actually listen. Because people want to know that you are there for them. And I love this quote. That smile does become your logo. And that personality, really, your personality is that business card. You want to create tremendous experiences that are going to be a super trademark. So visually, you're looking great. Now let's think about your vocals. How do people hear you? Are your ideas being heard? Your vocal delivery is so important. And when we think about vocal delivery, the science behind it, I'm going to show you the statistics. Women with higher voices seen as less authoritative. Scary men on this call right now. If you want to take your voice down to FM level, you're going to increase your worth by 200K, they say. That pitch and your speaking style directly correlate with your income. I've had one of our executives that were one of the sponsors of a company that we work with, and he said, Katrina, he went through our complete vocal delivery workshop. He said, this is almost more important than them giving an MBA. He goes, that's what I think about this. They don't realize how important it is. And the statistics and the science around it show that a charismatic speech can actually increase productivity and get workers to rally around you. So when you start to think about that, there's science that says that having somebody that rallies the troop is more important than giving them financial bonuses. Isn't that amazing? So the dish on your delivery, we absorb 145 to 160 words a minute. That's all we can take in. So if you're talking way too fast, I'm not going to keep up with you. And especially if it's a little bit of an older audience, I'm definitely not keeping up with you. Average American only uses 3 notes in their tones. Instead of taking it up a notch and showing some excitement or being comfortable and taking it down. So we need to be able to have some vocal variety to play a little bit. Even those 2-second pause shows that will put, if you took in your name, Katrina Cravey, Charisma Q, if you took your name and your company's name and you put a 2-second pause in between them at the next networking event you go to, people are more likely to remember you. So think about your vocal delivery and what you want to accomplish. Then your confidence. What is your fear? What do you need to get over? And I always love for everybody to like chime in and say, okay, here is my fear. If you want to share that in the chat, we'd love to go over. I think it's so great when we all share what our fears are. When I do this, when we're all together, they say, I kind of sum everybody up at the end by going, can we all admit We just don't want to look stupid. We don't want to say anything wrong that's going to hurt us, our careers, our family, our company. So if we can say it out loud, we got to say it to slay it. We got to say it to slay it. And once you slay it, what would you do if you weren't afraid? If you weren't afraid of anything and you knew, okay, I have supreme confidence, I know I'm going to be fine no matter what happens, what would you do? That naysayer, I like to call mine Betty. Betty, hush. That naysayer in your head, what do you want them to stop talking about in your head so that you can accomplish what you truly want to accomplish? Because that naysayer, that inner critic, probably what you're thinking of is never going to happen. Don't you love this quote from Mark Twain? I've lived through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened. They don't usually happen. That's not usually what goes on. So if you can stop the naysayer, that inner critic, and go, okay, I'm going to find my true inner confidence, that's what we want. Charisma Q coaches, that's what we bring to you. We're bringing that cheerleading to you to say, let's get over those fears. I want to really dive deep into, okay, what do we need to do to get you to the place you want to be? We call it the 3 Ps. So to get over that fear and to say hello to confidence, the 3 Ps is, how do you prepare for the moments that matter, even a one-on-one meeting? Have you researched everything you can about that other person? Did you have empathy for them? Did you figure out all the ways that you could have a great conversation and make it about them? How have you practiced? What did you put into the practice? And then you got to perform. When you're called up for that, especially for the bigger public speaking things that you might be doing, how do you perform in those moments that matter? For Brad Hollister, he was asked to speak on international stages, and I was putting together his speeches on those as his storyteller, like, okay, let's write this out. Now, the way that I like to say to prepare is, I don't want anyone to read it. I want you to know the content of it. I want you to feel the content of it, because that's when your audience will truly connect with you. So this is my behind the scenes look at what Brad is putting together. I've written the speech. I want him to highlight the things that mean something to him. So he's going through, he highlights it. Then on 3x5 cards in his own handwriting, because science shows that if you put something on in your own handwriting, your brain can visually bring it back up. He puts together his 3x5 cards. Now, Brad does it twice. He does it twice, and then he's ready to get on stage. We also get him loosened up. We listen to a walk-up song, we get pumped up, and we're going out there because it is an athletic event to get ready for a big public speaking opportunity. So I want you to think about your communication skills and how do you do the 3 Ps? Do you prepare? Do you practice? Are you ready to perform? If you don't believe it from me on what your communication skills can do for your financial success, I hope you would believe it from the man who's one of the richest men in America.
By far the best investment you can make is in yourself. I mean, for example, communication skills. I tell the students that come that they're going to graduate schools and business, and they're learning all these complicated formulas and all that. If they just learn to communicate better, and both in writing and in person, they increase their value at least 50%. And, I mean, if you can't communicate, somebody says, it's like winking at a girl in the dark. Nothing happens,
Bet you didn't think you'd come here to this webinar and hear him say that about winking at a girl in the dark. But I love what he had to say about increasing your value 50%. Now, the top executives that I was working with, they understood that. They wanted to, in those key moments, be ready for those big opportunities. What I am very excited about that I built with our co-founder, Terry Herman, is that right at the heart of COVID, we decided this shouldn't be only for executives. This should be for everyone. Terry came from a background in a video interviewing technology for hiring employees. So what we've taken is mature technology that now can be used on onboarding or further in your career. It's really incredible because what we're building is the future of communications coaching. What makes us different? It's what we teach, charisma. I'm wondering if you came to this webinar today because we talked about this word, charisma. 10 years from now, everybody's going to be talking about charisma and the science around charisma. We teach it on all channels. How do you write? What are you on virtual? How do you do in person? All of those different channels. How we teach it is very different too. It's a blended learning experience. So you go through a video evaluation where you're asked 10 questions. Then you have your one-on-one coach that continues to work with you, and quarterly workshops for those of you who might be going, I'm considering this for teams. If I have a team of people that I want to bring together, this is an incredible way to do this. We have had national teams come on and realized, man, what they do in Michigan is different than what they do in Texas and in California. Can we all get on a call afterwards? It's really a great team building experience if you want to do the longer version with the quarterly workshops. Now, who's teaching it? Certified Charisma Q coaches, people like me who have had years of experience in communication. They are industry leaders, they're celebrated expert storytellers, and we've built a diverse bench. People that we know that others, we all hear from different messengers. So we want to make sure that their life experiences and their ability to coach you becomes even greater for accelerating your growth. You might be wondering, well, what's this video evaluation? Trust me, I know it's pretty interesting because we have some artificial intelligence that goes with the video evaluation. One is that you go on and you're asked these 10 questions. We're asking you things like, what makes your company unique or different? Tell us the problems you solve. Why should I trust you? My personal favorite is question on what is your passion project, your personal passion project, and how would you get other people to jump on board? So the artificial intelligence can tell us how many filler words you used, like, by the way, I play that game with my kid. So if you have kids, I highly encourage you to talk to them about their filler words because it is their ability to be seen in society and be heard. The artificial intelligence also looks at eye contact with camera. This would have been a very different experience for you today if I started to look down the entire time. We're wanting to make sure that people are looking at the person, and the best way for us to do this, when I say we want to bring this to everyone, is this virtual platform where you can do this with a video evaluation. You get to score yourself. So the member goes in and scores themselves, and then your coach comes in and scores you as well. Now, I know that for some of you, this is going to be thinking like, okay, I have to think of myself in a whole new way. And I'm excited about what we're bringing to the future of communications coaching because of the lives that we've been able to touch. We love our logo slide here because in the last 3 years, we've touched over 1,000 lives and companies all across the world. And it's been in insurance, financial services, manufacturing, sales, technology. All of them, when we say what is the DNA of our customer, they are all building on high trust transactions where people, especially when you think about it, they're buying the person. We all do this. And what you buy, you end up buying the person that's selling it to you more sometimes than the product or the service that they're giving you. We want to know, it's like when you think about you, are you the one that people have to buy into? How do you show up? Are your ideas being heard? Whether you're in sales or you're an emerging leader, or you may be a CEO on this call right now, do you have enough executive presence and public speaking skills to move your career or your company to greater success? Charisma, it doesn't just come overnight. Like I've said, it takes practice to master. This quick webinar, it's not going to be something where you're going to immediately pick it up. It starts with you thinking a little differently about yourself, thinking about yourself in a bigger way. This question here, who is counting on you to speak for them, is a question that when I work with clients, it changes their mindset because I need them to think of themselves in a bigger way. So who's counting on you to speak for them? I did a great half-day session with some women, global women leaders that were brought into a manufacturing company. I'd love for you to take a look at this picture. It was not lost on me, the room that they put us in. And I asked all of these women that question: who's counting on you to speak for them? Now, these were global women. They've been flown in and they had deep answers. It was my country, my race, my gender, my team, our clients, my family, my grandparents. I mean, it got very emotional when they were thinking about all of these people. And I asked that question because we will all do more for other people than we'll do for ourselves. So even when I did television and I did Contact 6 and I was the consumer reporter, so if you called in and you had a problem, I was the one that was supposed to turn around and go run after somebody and solve that problem for you. And my boss said, man, you really believe in this. And it dawned on me, I didn't want to run after people on the street. That was not me. Like, I'd rather go have a beer with you. It is Wisconsin. I'd rather go have a beer with you. But I recognized that people were counting on me to speak for them. They were counting on me to help them solve those problems. So that question meant a lot to me, and me getting into that mindset of, I do want to be my bigger self. Now, one of the CEOs that I mentioned at the beginning that was interviewed by 60 Minutes, Tim and I were getting ready for the 60 Minutes interview, and we had a crew together, a video crew together, and I had watched a lot of Steve Croft tape so that I could be like him and ask questions like him. And the crew was there and Tim was answering the questions, and he was just answering questions like you normally would, right? Just answering the questions. And I said, I need you to be big. I need you to be super big, and so that we can project that confidence that you need to have, that charisma, that executive presence. And I said, who is counting on you to speak for them? It's like, let me think about it. I said, okay. He goes, I might have to think about this overnight. It's 250 employees and I have 250,000 members of the company. And I said, okay. He said, I'll come back tomorrow and I'll have it for you. And I said, all right. So he comes back the next day. He goes, Katrina, I've got it. He goes, it's 4 Lambeau fields full of people. All those people, it would fill up 4 Lambeau fields. And I said, great. Can you feel them? Can you feel them cheering for you, that you're their voice? You're going to be speaking for them on a national broadcast. And he said, yes, I can feel them. And as soon as we turned on the cameras, everybody in the room, all the studio people were like, whoa, he just came across differently. You talk about body language, vocal tone, everything that he was putting across. What was great is that when we went to New York City together and walked into the 60 Minutes set, he looked at me and he turned to the side and he whispered, 4 Lambos, 4 Lambos. And I smiled at him and I said, and you nailed this and we're going to fill up 4 more. Let's go. And he has. He did a great job during the interview. In this picture that you see here, Mike is the producer for Steve Croft, and he called me the next day and he said, you know what? Your guy has more conviction than the man who wrote the bill. And I said, thank you, Mike. I really appreciate that. I'll let Tim know. I said, well, yeah, he does. He has complete conviction. I do appreciate you calling. And I got off the phone. And what did I not say to Mike? It takes practice. It takes so much practice for you to feel that supreme executive presence. And we know at Charisma Q, we're building a world where everyone can feel that. We're building a safe place where you can practice with a coach who's going to give you expert feedback because they've done it their whole lives. They know what this takes. So it's going to be pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. It is. For a lot of us, public speaking is a huge fear. But if you can say, I'm willing to do the work, I want to do the work because I know it's going to advance my career and achieve the outcomes that I really want for myself, for my family, for all the people that are counting on you, then I know that when you are ready, you'll be able to take your brand to the bank. Thank you. Jeremiah, do we have some?
Yes, thank you, Katrina. That was wonderful. Before we get into our questions, I just wanted to hop in, and thank you, Katrina, again, so much for your words of wisdom. Um, before I open it up to the Q&A, I just wanted to let everybody know about our partnership with Charisma Q, and
Oh,
that
great.
you do have the opportunity to participate in their executive coaching program at a 20% discount. We will be dropping the URL in the chat, but if you are interested, please let us know and contact our customer service team at customerservice@uwcped.org.
Yeah.
But
And
now,
Jeremiah, we should probably talk about what this is. When I talk about that year-long program, this is a little different. The partnership with CPED is tremendous because you're going to be going through the video evaluation and getting that one-on-one coaching for one coaching. So you at least get a baseline report with those modules, the video learning the micro learning that you'll take in as well about how to make your presentation skills even better.
yes, this is a wonderful opportunity for everybody. So thank you, Katrina. We appreciate that partnership. We did have a question that came up in our chat.
Okay.
And here I am saying
I know. Okay. Tell me the truth. Can you raise your hand and tell me the truth? Is it hard after I get done with all of that? I always look at the audience and go, how many ums did I say? How many you knows did I say? I recorded myself when I first started in public speaking, and I kept hearing myself at the end of every sentence go, right, right, right. And it dawned on me, like, you got to axe that out. And it's not until we see it on video that we even realize we were doing it.
yes, exactly. So the first question is, what recommendations would you have for somebody that may feel self-conscious because of how they talk or how their speech is perceived with having an accent?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's one that I just talked to somebody about. I think having that accent is that you just have to acknowledge it to the audience and make some sort of joke about that, not about your accent, but about the fact of, like, for instance, I had a gentleman from Scotland who is now in insurance in Florida. And he said, everybody will be sitting in the audience when you present wondering where you're from. That's what they'll be doing. That's what the audience is wondering. And you want them to listen to you. So if you make some reference to Scotland, or, hey, it was a long ways for me to get here to Florida today, we at least need to address where you're from so that that checklist is off their minds and they're listening to you. So I hope that was helpful, but I think you need to acknowledge it and don't be self-conscious about it, because that's truly authentic to who you are and important for them to know your background. And maybe you get to share a little bit of a story about your background, that story helps you connect better to the audience and they feel like they truly got to know you. We're also worried about telling our stories, but truly people want to know.
Yeah. What is, in your experience, the most common mistake that you see people make with their presentations and with taking the Charisma Q evaluation?
Well, that's a good question too. Okay. So the most common mistake is that one micro expression that I talked about is universal through all cultures: smiling. People don't really know how to smile, and look in the mirror, like, work on your smile. I did that when I was a teenager. I was like, I want to get the right smile down, and I just wanted to feel that muscle memory. That, what people don't realize is that when you get into presentation mode, it is just, like I said, a sport. So if you were going to the batting cage, you would stretch out, you'd get ready. Your face has to be ready to speak today. I was doing a whole bunch of stretches right before we went on. And in television news, I was trained how to smile more while I was speaking. And the way that they got us to do it was to build up those muscles, put a pin in your mouth. And as goofy as that seems, I have been trained to build those muscles up and talk to you during a story where I don't take down the smile. I can keep it going and at least show some teeth through the whole time. Now, my 17-year-old son will tell you, Mom, you got a lot of wrinkles. And I always joke around like, hey, I'm a paid smiler and you're going to college because of it, hopefully to Madison. But, you know, so I think that the main thing that I think is relax, enjoy yourself. People will feel like you feel, but you have to give that with the micro expressions and the body language. If you've ever been accused of having resting thinking face, you know that you need to bring it up just a bit. And I know that some people might be going, man, there is no way I'm changing my micro expressions to fit somebody else or somebody else's thoughts of who I am. That's fine. You can adopt that mindset. If you're feeling stuck in your career and not being seen in your company, it might be a little bit of a disconnect where they think you're grumpy and not enjoying what you're doing. And we're all just reading people all the time.
Yeah. We're really starting to get a lot of great questions in, and we're going to try to get to all of them. Katrina, do you have any good tips for slowing down? We have a participant here that has a tendency to speak a little bit faster and struggles to speak slower. Do you have any recommendations about how we might be able to calm that down?
We are kindred spirits. When I went from California to West Virginia, my news director called me in and said, you're talking way too fast. And so this is the exercise that you can do. He gave me a script that I typically read in 30 seconds. And he said, now I want you to read it out loud. And he took a stopwatch and I want you to go for a full minute. And it felt like I was dying. And it'll probably feel like that for you too. But I would tell you to slow it down is to take a script, read it your normal pace first, do the stopwatch, and start listening to yourself at a slower pace. It ended up helping me connect with that audience because I was blowing them away. It was too fast. It was too fast. But we have a pacing exercise for you to do as well.
Wonderful. Do you have any tips or recommendations for those whose physical appearance may change when their emotions rise, when they're giving that public, so blushing, any tips there?
That happens. You're going to get red in the neck. Some of our clients get really red, they get hot. I would say that first of all, you need to learn how to breathe because, again, it's physical. So are you taking 4 breaths in or 4 seconds in, hold for 4, and then out for 4? If you do that 2 to 3 times, you're going to start lowering that heart rate, which will take up some of the redness. And then recognize it's okay to get red. I think we're so worried about people seeing it. Again, can you make a funny, like, hey, you'll see how red I am right now because it shows how much I care. And then you've wiped that away from them. If you don't worry about it, they won't worry about it. But I do think you need to breathe. Sometimes I've had people even use ice, bringing down their temperature, just getting your head space into, all right, I'm in the right headspace for this. But don't worry about it. A lot of people do it. It's not like you're alone. A lot of people do it. The bending of the knees, right? We need to make sure. I've had members that have say, I stood up too quickly and had to take the stage and got a little lightheaded. Then the answer is, if you know that about yourself, start standing in the back before you know you're going to be called up, right? Start lifting up those legs, start getting some of that blood moving around because you can't walk up there cold. I hope that helps. Don't worry about it. Red means you care.
There we go. I love it. Because we care and because we care about those around us, if we have co-workers or others within our teams or our families that maybe an up speaker or maybe have some other opportunities for improvement, how would you recommend us sharing with that individual feedback about that without giving them a complex or making them feel self-conscious?
Well, one, I think it's good to always ask, like, hey, if you're, especially timing is everything. Timing is everything. So if they say, oh, I'm really wanting to go for that new job. And then you should say, hey, I think you need to practice. And would you like some valuable feedback that I've noticed? How many of us wouldn't go, yes, please, let me, if it matters. So just ask, can I provide you some feedback? You also have to choose the right person too. Right? You're the judge of, will this person take the feedback well? For executives, I had one yesterday who I said, how do you want me to coach you? I can either ask you questions or I can tell you exactly what I think. And he said, I never get direct feedback because of who I am. And I want you to be brutally honest. So you may be thinking, okay, I want that too. And maybe you need to ask people or tell them the story of a person who wanted feedback. Does that sound like somebody you would want? Does that sound like somebody like you? Would you want valuable feedback if it was there for you? And most people answer yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. When we're on stage, sometimes we have the tendency to uh, lose that train of thought, and it just comes and just sticks. Has that ever happened to you? Do you have any recommendations of
Oh,
how
yeah.
to tackle that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it happens. And it's all in how you maneuver out of it. I say that sometimes mistakes can be the moments that people remember the most, and it's how you navigated out of it. So first of all, I always try at least for about 20 seconds to talk about something until the thought comes back into my head. But about that 20-second range, I've either got to take direction and go to the next thing that I was thinking about and let that go. The audience doesn't know what you didn't put in. So in your mind, you're thinking, oh, that was that great point, and now I can't think of it. And it's going to stop the conversation where the audience didn't know you had that great point. They didn't know. So let it just go and go to your next thing. Often people will go, Katrina, I go squirrel, like I have a thought, and then I think about something else. And then I'm like, oh, I got to bring this back. And so the best part is those 3x5 cards. Even if you're going into a meeting and you think there's 3 things I want to get across in this meeting, and I'm going to write them down, and I can't squirrel and go to something else until I get these 3 things taken care of. Because you don't want to walk out of that meeting not being a confident communicator and having that done first before you sent the group down a totally another path. And I'm sure that there's some of you on this call right now going, I know that person. I'm in meetings with that person where we had an agenda and it got thrown out. So yeah, the audience doesn't know what you didn't have come up in your head, and it happens. But Jeremiah, to another physical point. So when you're giving a very big presentation, a lot of water. You have to have a ton of water. I want people to be eating the protein the night before, getting ready for that, because your mind is important in your presentation skills. I learned that the hard way. I was speaking at a keynote address at a dinner party, and they were just insisting that I have a glass of wine. And I kept saying, no, I don't want any wine. And finally I said yes. I got up on stage about a half an hour later, and the hamster wheel wasn't running as fast. And I have a very fast beginning part. And I was like, come on, hamster, come on, move it, move it, move it. And I recognize I will never drink the day before an event or the day of an event. Like that, I just won't do. And now I have some of the top leaders going, yeah, my team wants to go out tonight, but I know I'm giving the keynote tomorrow, and no alcohol, right? I'm like, yes, no alcohol. It's physical. It's physical. So if you want those ideas to pop back up in your head, Did you eat that day? Did you have enough water? It plays a part.
Yeah, that's great. Great recommendations. I have a couple of questions that came in regards to the offer that we've put together for attendees. What is the best way to prepare for a video evaluation?
So again, back to some people, we have 10 questions, and some people will print out those questions, write up their complete statement of how they want to answer it, and tape it to their monitor and read it. I don't suggest that. I think we want to just get a baseline on how you're presenting yourself. So can you write down those 3 key pieces to every question on a 3x5 card and then just talk? Don't overthink it. Just get up there on the call, on the video evaluation, and just answer the question like you would if you were talking to anyone else. That's the best way to do it. A little prep, know the questions that are coming, and then just be yourself.
Well, that's wonderful. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple, sweetie.
There we go.
KISS method, right?
And a note, just a quick mention to our audience. If you do have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A box or into the chat box, and we'll pick that up. Otherwise, I have one last question for you, Katrina.
Okay.
If I were to decide to take advantage of the specific offer and meet with a coach, what is the biggest takeaway, what I can immediately apply?
The coach will be able to, once they look at your video evaluation, give you some great suggestions on first impression, whether it be yourself or your set and how you're presenting if you do a lot of virtual calls. They'll also be able to tell you some key points about your vocal delivery, even what they heard in your passion, and the ability for you to come away with a better first impression, better vocal delivery, which may be some feedback you've never received before, which I think is valuable, and a safe place for you to have it. And in some cases, depending on how long that the session goes, that full 60 minutes and you have time, we are known storytellers. We can, after hearing your story, can tell you how to tell the story of you and your company even better. So we can put them in the right order for you and say, hey, what if at the next networking event, could you say the story of you like this? And typically people walk away going, all right, now I can do this in a much better way. So there's a lot of takeaway in that first. And we've had members tell us just scoring myself was a great exercise for me. So having the coach come in and give that score too. Sometimes too, Jeremiah, we see a discrepancy. People will go in and score themselves lower than the coach. Sometimes they'll come in and score themselves higher. So then we're talking about confidence levels. And there's some interesting discussions in that, some really great, deep conversations.
That's great feedback. When you were so we had another question come in. What do you wish you knew at the beginning of your career that you know now? Oh,
that's a good one. What do I wish that I knew at the beginning of my career? That I was going to get paid so little in West Virginia? I learned that right away. What do I wish I knew? I wish I knew it was okay to fail. I think I was always so worried about it being so great that I didn't give myself enough grace. And if this is our last question, I hope all of you give yourself some grace when it comes to this, but also push yourself.
That's great. Excellent feedback as always. Thank you so much, Katrina. We really appreciate you being on today and sharing your words of expertise. Again, for everybody, CPED has partnered with Charisma Q and has put together this great program with Katrina and her team at a discount. And if you are interested, please reach out to us. We are happy to answer any questions that you might have. And with that, thank you everybody for coming today. We really appreciate your time and the investment that you're making on your lifelong learning journey. So I'm Jeremiah DeGullen. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.